provide a brief overview of what happened. Residential schools started out in Canada and was funded by both the Canadian government and the church. It was an experiment for the colonists of Canada to remove Indigenous religion from their new country. The church funded this mission because they want to assimilate Indigenous religion and culture and replace it with Christianity. But as the years went on, and many people began understanding what the church was doing was a bad thing, and the church was disowning itself, the church didn't understand that what they were doing was an injustice. They just thought what they were doing was right for their time. Analyze the personal effects it had during the time, and if they still exist today. First Nations people were treated horribly by their teachers because of their race and religion, and they could have been beat, thrown in solitary confinement, or possibly killed. These are traumatizing experiences both in and out of school because it represents how brutal the schools were, and the kinds of actions may have made a child lose their innocence, scarring them forever. Today there are no residential schools in Canada, but that doesn't change the brutality of the schools. Most survivors saw the schools as a terrifying place and prisons. Obviously this was never the church's goal. They neglected to see that it doesn't matter on culture, but humanity instead, offering suffering instead of learning, and eventually the church achieved their missions when they took down the last residential school and left First Nations culture alone. And though it has been years since the last school, many existing survivors are still fresh with the memories of chaos.
What social effects did it have? Do these effects still exist today? The goal for residential schools was to take the Indian out of the child. The school became the reason during and after residential schools why so many Indigenous people have higher rates of addiction, abuse, violence, illness, and death. These are all reasons in which the church has neglected their mission. Another way in which the church has neglected their mission was by prejudice. Prejudice is the idea of forcing a religion on someone. Even though people think that residential schools only have negative effects, there are some positive effects that came out from this also. The church's mission was to simply spread Christianity to new converts. They did, however, achieve their mission afterwards. They have achieved this by Catholic missions in Canada. CMC has made for more than 600 missionaries across Canada. These missionaries help build houses, create jobs, help them receive education, and help with their financial situations. The church is slowly making it up to the Indigenous people by spreading their language, or by speaking their language during the Mass, their participation in smudging, and by participating in their cultural dances and celebrations. How has the church responded to these effects, past and present? Explain whether you believe the church can do more in their response, and how they can be done. In 1991, Canadian Catholic bishops and leaders of religious communities have made a statement that we are sorry and deeply regret the pain, suffering that so many have experienced at residential schools. There are many statements containing that the church is deeply sorry for what they have caused Indigenous people in the past and are willing to move forward with the Indigenous communities. Some recent apologies have been made by the federal government in 2014, along with an apology by Justin Trudeau himself in 2017, which both states that they are sincerely sorry on behalf of Canada. I personally believe that an apology isn't enough. However, the church is on the right path by having missionaries around Canada to help and provide for the Indigenous people who are affected by the results of residential schools. I do feel like the church is struggling in its mission because it is not doing enough to help those who are affected or on the wrong path in life. The church would be better off if they were to engage themselves in a greater way regarding apologizing, reconciliation, and restoring faith with the First Nation people.